I wanted to share my thoughts on an article that I had read a couple of days ago, but it kind of hit home and I wanted to offer some introspect and pretty much tell the people that are playing in music groups, not just bands, but music groups, that every single group that you form, that you assemble, that you actually partake in, has some type of relationship complication at times. I joke around saying that, some of my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram posts, I say yes when it was cool to play in a band. Well, I haven't played in a band in quite some time, but let me read what this user posted a couple weeks back. Well, this is actually pretty old, but it kind of made sense. So it reads, the subject line reads, "Tired of the band drama, time to try something new." And he writes, "Hello all. Well, I thought the new band was going to get more gigs for this year. As I am self-employed, I have much freedom for traveling and gigging, so I hung around all winter practicing, but with the economy, gas prices, etc., the gigs are far and few in between, not to mention the drama that comes from being in this particular band component." And he continues with, "So what do you all think the answer is to get more paying jobs?" And he continues with, "Here's what I've come up with. Number one, go solo. As I've done this before, it's not my cup of tea. Number two, become a hired gun. This may be an easier fit for me as I do play guitar and mandolin well enough to fit in almost any bluegrass situation. Number three, form a duo or trio. This also puts me back in a band situation, which I really don't mind, and this option may be better for the percentage of money per gig." And he concludes with, "Well, this is what I can come up with. Can anyone off? You misspelled that. Can anyone else offer any suggestions?" And okay, so my experience with bands has been that no matter what the case is, there has to be some type of compromise because it is a relationship. And I've seen bands go through several members like pairs of socks, simply because it's one-sided. All the ideas come from one person, and if anyone else has input, then it's completely disregarded, and it pretty much turns into an oligarchy as opposed to a democracy. But there still has to be a captain to the team, but not in a very communist dictator way. And what I mean by that, I'll use an example. I played in a band maybe around 2000, 2001. And I had a lot of ideas regarding lyrical content. The music was already there. The music was great. There was a trend of rapping to really heavy music at the time, because Rage Against the Machine was popular. Hed PE had just come out. Limp Bizkit's first album hit, and that was aggressive. And a couple other bands were actually making an impact in that type of new heavy metal with rap vocals style of music. So I was very infatuated with it. And the problem with infatuations is that they don't last very long. They're temporary. But I am a fan of hip hop and rap, so it only made sense to me. So what I ended up doing is I continued on with the lyrical content, but the bandmates were not completely satisfied with the result. Instead of sitting down and talking about it, which is what in any given relationship you would sit down and find some type of meet in the middle, or try to find, some type of solution. That never happened, and that's due to inexperience, ego, and pretty much plain stubbornness. So I was willing to talk, but to an extent, they just were not willing to negotiate whatsoever, because it was the sound that they were trying to go for, and I didn't fit the mold. And long story short, I was kicked out of that band. So what I learned next is in the next band I got into, all the ideas came from me. I wrote all the guitar riffs, I wrote all the bass riffs, I wrote all the lyrics, I wrote all the vocals, I wrote all the drum lines, everything. And I pretty much recruited people to play the content, which is not bad. I mean, that's pretty much what, any normal person would do. But what I wanted to accomplish was something a lot more different and, original. So long story short, with that band that I was in, there was a couple leadership problems in that one, simply because one person had one idea and the other person would either consider it or kind of shoot it down, put it on the shelf, or as they say in retail, they put it in the parking lot. And then there was one particular individual that completely wanted to control the entire group simply because they were older in age. And I don't mean older like, old and young. They were just, 6 years older than the rest of the band. And the problem with that is age is not a big factor. A lot of it is just maturity. My advice to anyone that gets into a band or tries to form any kind of music group, a collaborative group, is that it doesn't have to be exactly 50-50, because even royalty splits don't work that way. There's got to be like a 49-51. What I mean by that is someone has to have an executive power, a power of attorney to pretty much be the deciding vote, the tiebreaker. If not, you're pretty much, in limbo. You're standing on a fucking deserted island without a decision. And here's ultimately what I'm getting at. And this is just me offering my opinion, my thoughts on this article that I read, because a lot of people do go solo and it really doesn't work out for them. You have to be super talented and you really, really have to make an impact, kind of piggybacking off the following that you've already established. Now, the following is key. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier to do because of the internet. Now, at the same time, it's a little bit more complicated and competitive because of the internet. And what I mean by that is the ease of communicating with an audience. It's really, really fascinating how basically the internet has allowed us to share our work, our music, our art, whatever you want to call it, with people you pretty much don't even know, and you never probably will ever get to meet because they're either in a different country or they're in a different state that are not within reach. And now at the same time, it's allowed you to leverage your local audience, which is great. It works out for a lot of people. Now, that's what I mean by going solo. You have to leverage what you already established with a previous group. Because if you're going to start from scratch, you got a long road ahead, and you can't do it alone. I've said this time and time again, you cannot do this alone. A lot of people don't get it until they experience it, but bottom line is you cannot do this alone. It's pretty much near impossible to not get any help whatsoever. Anyway, the other point I'm making here is that going solo is an option, is not the best option, but the second one is, now this is becoming a more modern trend. I don't know why, but it's been around for quite some time. But forming tribute bands to your favorite artists, for example. Now, I've seen them all. I've seen tributes to Van Halen. I've seen tributes to Motley Crue. tributes to Rage Against the Machine, tributes to Soundgarden, Guns N' Roses, Led Zeppelin, you name it. I've seen a lot of them. And I remember a buddy of mine, and I'm going to give this guy a quick shout out because he's amazing for pretty much giving me his retrospect on this. My buddy Rod from a very, very awesome cover band, Steel Rod, once told me, hey, I once did play original songs, but, you know, people were not knocking down my door to play original tunes for money. They wanted me to play covers. So, story of his life, that's pretty much what he wound up doing. And he's been at it for about 15 plus years or more. I don't know exactly how long, but that's exactly how he established his career as a musician. So fast forward, he still does it. He still plays covers. He's still successful. He still does a lot of musician things. Like, he's also developed other tribute bands that are pretty gnarly. He's done a Black Sabbath tribute band, a Van Halen, and he's done a Journey tribute band with all his other comrades. So anyway, that's another option, and it's a pretty popular one because you do get a lot of people that do inquire, like, hey, do you take requests? Do you know this song by this artist? So if you can learn a lot of songs, and I know a lot of people stubbornly don't like to do it simply because there's an ego about it, I highly recommend you do it. But, you know, playing in a band is relationship based. I can't stress that enough. A lot of people think I'm just joking around, but, you know, it's just like being in a relationship. Only the relationship here is based on one common goal, which is music. I mean, other relationships are different, like a romantic relationship, you know. That's a different story. That's for a different podcast. But just remember that I would pick the tribute band option or be a cover band if you really kind of want to make money in the live scene, because being an original band, unless you're signed to one of the major labels right now, your chances are very slim to make money off your own material, especially also with DJs as well. Being a DJ, because it's not like it used to be back in the day when you're a vinyl DJ and you would pretty much be a mixed DJ at parties and stuff like that. You know, it's a little bit different now. It's a little bit tougher. I see a lot of people aspiring to be DJs, but they get thrown in front of CDJs, and they don't know what to do. So I would suggest, you know, practicing with that. But then again, remember, even that, you can't do it alone. You need help. You need promotion. You need self-marketing. I can go on and on about this stuff, but I just wanted to offer my thoughts on what I read, and wish everyone that forms a group or a band the very best. I hope you succeed. It's not easy. It takes a lot of work and a lot of patience, not only from yourself, but the people who are supporting you. It's very tough. And not to mention that if you lose focus and other shit gets in the way, guarantee you it's not going to last very long. So you have to ask yourself that question, and ask yourself that question now. Do I want something that's going to last, or do I just want a cheap high? Think about that.